Good evening, my dears. Welcome to the show. Hope you're all safe and well. Beginning of another week. Now, tonight.
I can't stop. I'm sorry. I need to come out and come back in. Start again.
People will be wondering what the hell's going on. They'll say, where's the bald chap? Who's that? Who's that hairy granny sitting in front of the camera? You know, good evening, Sarah, my dear. I hope you're doing fine and well, and welcome for coming in. Tonight we have Ghoul Gang over there, Rosie Cardy. She's the one with all the white saying why I've got one. And we have the man without any hair down there, Mr. Mike Covell. He's just jealous. Don't worry him. He's just jealous, my dear.
We've got Mike one as well.
We've got Mike one as well. He's just jealous because he's got a comb and he doesn't know what to do with it. I carried it.
We did say we'll start with Granny and then we'll end with Scott.
Aye. Hey, Nicky doll, she missed Granny. Just for Nicky's benefit, I'll get the hedgehog, you know, and just do a wee. Good evening, Nicky, my dear. It's lovely to see you. All the way from LSP, and that's not a disease. No. You don't need any tablets for that one. Nicky and the girls are lovely. They're absolutely lovely lasses to sit. I've had many a conversation with the girls, and they're absolutely lovely, you know. And they take everything very seriously with a wee tipple, of course. You know, like a wee tipple. You know, who doesn't?
I hope
Mike, stand up and show your lower half. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah, I've got.
He's got pants.
Yeah.
He's got pants. I hate that word, pants. I hate the word pants. It takes me back to my primary school days. My mum used to make me wear pants and used to say, Mum, I want to go commando today. You know, you wear your pants. And they were massive. Absolutely massive. Extra large. You were only like 9 years old. You were up to there. You know, you can see them poking out the top of your school shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And did your mum see you grow into them?
I still wear them. I'm still waiting to grow into them. I think she was lying to me, actually. You know, she was lying to me that I'd grow into them. 57 and I'm still bloody waiting to grow into them.
Just as long as they don't go out on the washing line.
Well, I don't put the washing line's no big enough. You know, I think that boat sail in that washing line.
Yeah. Big, a hot air balloon for them to sit over and then go up.
Like the knickers Granny usually used to wear. No, I mean. I'll do a wee quick explanation for the wig. Oh, no, I'll just keep people wondering, actually. So
We like wondering.
Aye, what people guessing, is he or isn't she? Or, you know, a wee bit of a mystery to why I was wearing a wig at the start of the live and talking in a funny voice. But I say I can't do it for too long because my voice disappears. Yeah. You know.
I have got the video, so Sarah's just sent me it. We've got the video, so I can, that's my bedtime video now.
Well, I'll send it to you as well, Mike. In fact, you know, I'll send it to you so you can see what she's talking about. But that was way back in the day. That was long before we became respectable. Well, not very respectable now, you know.
Well, you have a past.
We all have a past, don't we? We've all done stuff in the past, you know, and think, why did I get arrested for that, you know?
See, like from last chat with you guys, obviously I remember Mike talking about the meat, because you were going for the vampires and the meat. That's still stuck in my head. I could not stop laughing after. And then obviously, you know, Scott and his wig now and his granny pants. I think it's obviously the next show would be my turn to have something happen.
I'm not. Well, can I just say that I'm not wearing granny pants? I just want to make that's Laura. Hi, Laura, though. I just want to make that perfectly clear. I'm not wearing my granny's pants. You know,
The bloomers. Flowery.
She took them with her when she died. Well, we think she died. We buried her. So I hope she was dead. Or burying her was a big mistake. Anyway.
Right.
Lord, hello, Mike and Rosie. So where were we? We weren't anywhere actually, were we?
It was 6 minutes in and we've got to wigs and pants.
Next is the red wellies are coming out. The red wellies in the mankini. I'm not allowed to wear them in Greggs anymore. I didn't know it was illegal to wear them in Greggs. Just a mankini and red wellies.
Oh my God. And you know what? We were on holiday one time and my partner, his brother PJ, he had a mankini on. And he had it underneath his normal clothes, and it was the old ladies who was egging him to get the kit off on the beach in the mankini, and he loved it. Like, he was poses, the grannies were like clapping him. Mankinis, I've seen it. Oh, it's bad. Hairy bumps, that's all I say.
There was none of the Bo Derek. I don't know if you remember Bo Derek or not. Mike, well, I don't think Rosie. I can get you a pair of granny pants from the location I work at. So who's that? Who's that? Bo Derek running along the beach. I could just see me in a mankini down at the beach at Ayr, you know.
Wind in your hair.
Wind in my wig, you know.
Wind in the weave.
Can you imagine it bouncing along the sand, wind in the... chasing the ice cream van? Come here, I want a cone.
And then you just fall over. That's what happened. It'll be a big tumble in the sand, the wig's flown off. Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, I'm trying to be serious. It's just not happening. We've done a few shows that just went south. Not in a rude way. We're very strict about that, you know that. Not the best. But it just turns into a riot, basically, and you can't talk for laughing, you know. God, I'm going to just wait till I turn up at your door, Craig, wearing it with my red wellies and my bikini on. Right. So, well, we try to get serious. What do you think?
We always try to be serious. We always have that little bit of paranormal talk, and then that just, yeah. Like,
this is my serious face. This is the face when there's no sausage rolls left at Greggs. What do you mean? You know, there's no sausage rolls left.
Frown pound.
Aye. I travelled all the way for a sausage roll. You better produce one, missus. I don't care where you get it. You know. As you folks are just talking rubbish tonight. Are you trying to send me to the asylum? No, I could. Hey, Nigel, buddy. So, what have you been up to? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. 2 seconds. Rosie, where is it? Come on, the accent.
Oh.
Sorry, mate, I totally forgot about her accent.
I've been practicing my accents, and you got your wig on and you said, hello there. I think I failed.
That was crap. Usually I don't.
That was crap. I got that bit. That was crap.
I was practicing my accent.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry.
I don't know who that is. The things I have to witness daily cannot and should not be discussed.
Is that Laura?
That's Laura.
I don't know. Is it Laura?
That's got to be Laura. Yeah.
Keep it to yourself, Laura. That's PIH, personal private time business. Shh. Not to be discussed. You know what I mean? So anyway, we'll try again. That was the third or fourth time. What have you been up to? What's happening?
First.
What have I been up to? Wow. I can't remember when we last spoke. It was a while ago, wasn't it? I've done a few investigations. I met some lovely witches, and we went and celebrated the Strawberry Moon together in a woodland that is said to be haunted by a local witch. And I believe that evening as well, we got chased by a ghostly hedgehog. Although I'm not 100% certain. So that was really interesting. We've been investigating a local pub that's on the outskirts of Hull. We've been there a couple of times to investigate. We've had some fantastic activity. And yeah, I mean, hundreds of ghost walks since then. We've been having, there's a bit of woodland where I take my clients, and it's rumoured to be haunted, and there's stories of white ladies and all this kind of stuff. Every single week we run this tour, and at the end I always say to people, if you see something, let me know, because it's a woodland. So because I'm concentrating on my clients, I don't get the opportunity to look around. At the end of every tour, people have come forward and said, who were the people dressed in black running behind the trees? No idea. And then one client said, will you host the tour at midnight for a private party? So I went and sat out there on my own at midnight waiting for them to arrive. And it was such a weird evening. All the women on the tour reported getting the neck out, like someone's trying to grab the neck. We've had some really interesting nights, and a lot of what people are coming up with fits in with the history of the location as well. So that's been really interesting. It went to a place called Peggy Farrow Lane, which is on the outskirts of Hull. It's said to be haunted by a witch, Peggy Farrow. And we went, there's a little cemetery on the lane, and the lane is on an incline, so it goes up a hill, and it's really overgrown. It's very, you're in the middle of the countryside, basically. We went into this really old cemetery. It was I believe it was a Quaker burial ground, and then the primitive Methodists took it over, and various religions had used it. And the bushes started. Do you remember Jurassic Park where the raptors are running through the bushes? It was like that, but tiny. And we were convinced it was a hedgehog. So we'd taken lots of fruit and veg with us to leave as offerings for Peggy Farrow. So we were feeding whatever it was. And I went to get a vantage point, and there was nothing there. There was nothing. So we don't know what was happening. I'm convinced it was a ghostly hedgehog. So that was interesting. Then we went into the woodland, and at that point, it's beautiful. It was a really lovely move. And the woodland's supposed to be haunted. People have experienced all sorts in there, from strange animals, big cats, wild boar. The last time we were there, we saw something that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a deer. It looked a bit weird. It sort of ran across. And I asked out and said, is there anybody here? The EMF was going crazy. We were in the middle of the forest, and then all of a sudden you could hear like an old bicycle bell, like ringing. But it only went off every time I asked out for activity. So that was, that was a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been really busy. I've just signed loads of agreements to do stuff right up to Christmas, including paranormal investigations, ghostly lectures, and then just yesterday I finished writing book number 99, and today I've been working on book number 100. So yeah,
busy
that's
bee.
all I've been up to.
Yeah. That's all.
So basically, you've had the odd day here and there where you've been busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking through my diary. I've not had a day off, a proper day off for ages. There's always something. Even when I plan a day off, I always end up getting dragged into a meeting or things like that. I've taken the last few weeks, I've taken people out from all over the world on tours. I had a group from California. They came a couple of weeks ago, and then last week I took a group from California down Barmston Drain to look for the beast of Barmston Drain. And I was telling them all about the meat and things like that, and they thought it was hilarious. And it was a really weird day because it was hot and humid, but it started raining. And the drain is just a haven for midges and flies, and the back of my neck. I rubbed the back of my neck and it was crunchy. And I remember put my hand out and it was like a scene from Bug's Life. There were just creepy crawlies everywhere. And I had to look cool because all these big American scientists were there, so I was trying to be real cool about it all, and and it was hilarious because I turned around and there was a lick flinching, and but that was great fun. We went to all the cemeteries in the area, and good night, fun.
Thanks for sharing that, last wee bit with Mike,
The bug.
It's with midgie syndrome. I don't know, you get it, I know, when you've been out and there's midges everywhere and you go home, you have a scrub and changed, you're still scratching all night.
Yes.
Even though there's nothing out there, you're still slapping yourself. I slap myself randomly anyway, what.
Oh well, we went out to the mausoleum, which is down the road from us, and we walked in, and in about 2 minutes we were literally being bitten to death. I had 7 in one bit on my leg. And I went back to the car because I forgot I had a midget spray in there, and then we went back and it was just like you could still feel them on you. But yeah, midgie, as you said, midgie central. It's just, and I was like a football ground to them. Horrible.
That's the joy of being out in nature, isn't it? You get bitten to death and what have you. But Rosie, you've been away camping, haven't you?
I have, yeah. We had me and my partner. It was for his birthday, so we did 2 nights in a lovely bell tent. So we normally just do a normal tent, but we had like a luxury of a bell tent with a double toasted bed in there, fridge, fairy lights, barbecue. But yeah, it was absolutely awesome. We did some goat walking. That was for his Christmas presents. We walked some pygmy goats, which was an experience. He got cornered by the biggest alpaca and it ate all the feed for the goats. So I'm like, well, what are you going to feed your goat now? He's like, I don't know. I got backed into a corner and I couldn't stop it. It was face in the bag. What else? Oh God, went to a garden centre and bought some sunflowers. And we literally had a lovely time. We went to a couple of English heritage sites and just a couple of little bits going on as you do. But then we did camping. That was up in the Midlands. So we went to Evesham. Is it Evesham? Yeah. And yeah, other than that, paranormal wise, remember where we left off with paranormal stuff. Did we do our big location that we had? We had a secret location that we was going to investigate. Yeah, so we've done that. Absolutely amazing. We had a platform, so we were in a room, loads of chairs around, and a couple of people sat on the floor, and there was one chair left. And when somebody sits down on a chair, it makes that creaky noise. It kept doing that. Well, no one had touched the chair. No one was near, it was like that far away from the next person. And that person next was like, it feels like someone keeps sitting down, and she could feel like this little cold breeze brushing past that right side. So we're like, okay, let's change around. Everyone move seats. Let's move around and see what then happens. And it then felt like we needed to get the men out of the room. So one guy was already outside doing a lone vigil. So we got the 2 other men out, popped them on the landing, and then we had just women. And then I think there was like 13 of us, 13 women, and there's one chair free again, but it was the other side of the room. And you could hear it creaking like someone was down on it. So we let's put the cat ball on it and ask if someone's there. Can you set the little flashing ball off? And off it went. And it was then communicating with us intelligently. And then it just stopped for 3 questions. Well, I was like, okay, well, that's obviously there, no answer. And I said to people, how do you feel with the cat ball going off? They're not going off. And they were like, ask more questions, because they're so excited for it going off, because it's like, well, who's making it go off? And then asked one of the ladies, are you okay? Because she was right next to the other side of the cat ball going off. And I said, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm okay. And then the cat ball went off as well, like indicating that, yeah, they're okay. They're fine. It didn't creep us out, didn't feel anything negative, which was perfect. It was a ladies' room, and that's what the owner or the manager said it was a ladies' room, and that's what it needed, all the ladies in there. And then they communicated, and children running around. We've got photos, but the thing is, I am not good at technology. So we've still got to put it up onto our Facebook page and trying to pop it into like an episode for you all to view. So yeah, we're working on it. But yeah, the footage will be up on our page soon. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But our other location, Saturday, me and Mum, which we've got booked for September. Can't say where yet. We are.
You like to keep things.
I'll tell you after when we come off live. We'll tell you later. Absolutely phenomenal place. Activity during the day when we were there. A certain light is broken, and even the manager was like, it turned on when we were talking and asking questions, and she had to get the other guy in and say, like, has this been fixed? And he was like, no, it's not been fixed. It doesn't work. And we were like, can you turn the light on, please? And off it went. And they were both amazed by this light going off, and we were making sure there's no sensor. And we had other people go in because it was during the day, so there was guests there, like visitors, and we left them in there. And then we went back and said, did the light turn on? And they're like, no light turn on for us. Like, it's completely dark. Well, not dark, but you know. And yeah, we can't explain the light going on and off. So they're going to keep an eye on it between now and when we visit in September and see if it goes on and off again. But stuff saying our names, and yeah, it's a good location. It's a very, very good location. We will be live for that one as well.
We'll be watching. You probably deserve a good slapping, Scott. This is Kat. I'm taking that Kat Armstrong, I think. Makes you realize. Am I right? Aye, am I right? Cheers. Kat is William Armstrong's better half of Paranormal Exposures. Cheers for that, doll. I wish Willie a happy birthday again. Now that he's kicking on 63, you know. But you get that, but you get sometimes you just find that you get a certain location. You know, you go to loads of places, but you get a certain location and you feel like, this is a win.
Yeah.
You know, and you want to get back and back and back to it. Do you get that?
Yeah, definitely. This pub we've been visiting, like I said, it's so active. There's a loft space, and the entrance is just one single hatch. And we sat below the hatch, but on the actual loft, we put the cat balls up there, we put EMF detectors and REM pods, and we were asking for activity, and the loft was lit up like a disco. There was flashing lights, and everything was going off, the REM pod was going off, and then it just stopped. And we thought, this is weird, and we went up to check, and the cat balls had disappeared. And we searched the loft high and low, and we found them in a box. And it was like, how the hell have the cat balls got in the box? And the second time we went, we had some ladies with us, and they were sort of like, oh, we want to go and have a look at the loft. And we was like, man, go on, you go up there, see you later. And about 10 minutes later, one of them came down running, and she wasn't very happy. She went and sat outside, and it was only when we went for a break and we all sat around talking about what had just happened. She was basically asking for stuff, and a glass flew across the loft space and landed at her feet and never smashed. And you can hear on the audio, you can hear him asking. You can hear the glass moving in the distance, and then you can hear it hit the floor, and then you can hear her swearing and just trying to get out that loft space as quick as possible. But yeah, it was so active. I mean, I went and sat in. It's an old farmhouse, so where the bar is, that's in part of what the barn used to be. And I just went and sat by myself in there, and I felt incredibly sad. But it was like you could see people walking across the bar. Jeez. And initially I thought it was staff members or one of the group. And I went over, and there was no one there. And I went right to the other end of the building where everyone else was. And they said, look, we've not left. We've been here all the time. And all of us vouch for that. So that was really strange. But really, and you just know, you get that feeling there's something there. And it wasn't a bad feeling. It wasn't necessarily a bad feeling. But we had so much fun. I mean, it was the first night we had all the staff from the pub working with us. Right. Because they'd never done an investigation before. So we sort of said, look, we'll come and help and we'll get you involved. And it was just hilarious. It was just there was just so many wonderful characters within the group. And we had such a good laugh. And I remember we'd had a meal before the investigation. They'd cooked a big meal for us. So I was stuffed, and I needed to break wind. So I disappeared to the other end of the building so I could break wind quietly. And when I came back, one of my group members was walking towards that area. So I stopped her and said, just go careful. There's a really weird smell down there. I think it's sulphur. So she went down there and started sniffing around. And then about 10 minutes later, she came back and punched me in the back and said to me, you're she swore at me. She said, I've just realised what you've done.
Did she look at my demonic or something? No.
Yeah, no, it wasn't demonic. I think it was just my hunter's chicken coming back from the afterlife. So,
oh, that was brilliant.
That's lovely, Mike. Thank you very much for that.
You can't say you got red-handed then. You got caught smell.
We did a lot of experiments with the staff, and we were asking out for stuff. And one of the chefs, he was really bigging himself up, and everyone was sort of saying, "You're not the big man. You're a sous chef. You're a bit lower than a big man." And so we asked out, do you know this guy? And he said yes. And do you think he's a good chef? He said no. Does he always burn stuff? Yes. And this guy sat there like, what? Like, what's going on? Like, they don't like you cooking. Someone on the other side is not interested in and not happy with your cooking techniques. But that was, he thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, great company, great location, and hopefully we're going to go back at some point. It's one of them places that just keeps dragging you back for more.
You just got to go back for more. That's what the mausoleum's like. It's an outdoor location, and it's not big, but it's big enough. And you've got the mausoleum and a few graves down the bottom, and then you've then got extra graves around. But it just draws you back in, and it's like you could either spend 20 seconds there, and you're like, okay, no, we're not going to disturb you tonight. Like we're off. Or you can spend 2 hours there. And the last time, I think we've been visited after our chat, and I've got a couple of photos that I can send you guys. Mum felt something behind her, and we all turned around, took our pictures, and I've got this person like they're just about to enter the gate, and you could just see this horrible looking man just stood there, and it's like he's either got like a crater in his head because it's been blown off or something, or if he's got like a shadow of a hat on or something. It's just really weird. And then the same night, we relaxed ourselves after seeing that photo, because I took a couple of photos, and in the second one it's gone. And we then sit down on the steps of the mausoleum, and we're just chatting amongst ourselves, and we just start taking pictures randomly. And then you can just see this woman, a Victorian woman. She's got her big dress on. You can see her hat sat to like one side, and you can see her arms just kind of like this, but she's got her back to us. And I draw my pictures up, and I'm drawing it up, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, what's she looking at? I then realised there's a kid hugging a tree, but you didn't see that when you were down there. Again, I'll send you those pictures, but it's that location that just draws you back in, no matter how lovely and pleasant it is, or how quite creepy and scary it can be. It still draws you back in. And that's where we're doing our global ghost hunt this year with Brian on Parapost Network Central. We've signed up to the global ghost hunt, so that's our location for this year. So it'll be good.
Loudon Kirk's with that. We'd be Loudon Kirk up here, and it's happy. It's a peaceful. It's a beautiful kirkyard. It's not used anymore, but it dates back to the 1100s. And it's you all, when you walk in, you always feel that there's people about, but a few times you walk in and you can feel there's people about, and they know you're there, but they don't care. They're just going about their business, whatever it is they're doing, I can't. Well, they were over last year. I think, was it last year, the year before? They were over there for Iowa, and so they were here in holiday because William's a fellow Pollock boy, same as me. So he was over visiting family, and we took them to Loudon Kirk, and they were blown away by it. It's you don't get major activity but you always get intelligent responses.
Yeah.
You know, and you get the girls in the team used to down the back end there's a male. We've managed to identify who he is and why he's there and what have you. But the girls always got they wouldn't get near the back end of the cut card. Refused to go near it because of this male. But once we found out who he was and why he was there, the whole atmosphere in the place changed.
Yeah.
You know, it might sound far-fetched or whatever, but now the girls would go in. In fact, I took Laura in and left her there one night in the dark to the Merlin Vigil. No, I was sitting in the car. I was like, away in the car. I didn't go to McDonald's or a Big Mac. A Greg's for a sausage roll. She done it as a lie, so I could see her. You know, she was never in any danger. I should never went to McDonald's actually. However, that's another story. But just the whole atmosphere in the place changed, and that's the place that we feel that because we keep going back to it, the spirits are getting used to us, and we're getting more and more kind of info. Have you ever done a location where you reach that certain point that when you get back, the atmosphere kind of changes? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I know what I mean.
Yeah, like with the mausoleum, I've been there so many times, and I've walked up sometimes. It got to the point where they changed the fence around the location, and I think it was all to do with the change of that. It just changed that little bit of atmosphere just there and there, and it was literally 20 seconds inside the gate and back out again. And they had ventured out across the road, and it's a weird location because the spirits know their boundary in that location, and it's always the middle of the road. So once you're on one side of the road, you know they stay there. But when the fence got taken down, they were coming out and down where the cars are parked, and it's like they're not meant to be down there, but they're being rebellious because the fence got taken down, so they crossed that border. But yeah, it always changes. You never have the same sort of night. But yeah, once you got to know them, even the lady that's on that land, that owns that land, she's still the same person. Even if she invites you in as loving, she will still be a horrible person. Unfortunately, she just don't like gypsies on her land. And me and Mum resemble from gypsies, so every time we're on there, she's not nice to us. we control it. We give her boundaries, but sometimes you just have to go because it's not. Yeah, I won't trust her. I can't trust her because there's been that close to where there was a time when my partner was during COVID when we were doing our walks, what they call the exercise walks that you could do. Obviously, we went through the mausoleum for our exercise walk. A little ghost hunt at the same time, and my partner was on Gansfield, and it was just me and him there, and someone was coming behind me, feel it, and I knew it was going to be her, and my partner was like talking to random stuff because you can hear the spirit box going, and it's on. I've got it live. I've got the video saved, and he shouted out, "Hit her!" Well, I felt something coming, so I turned around, and as I turned around, he shouted out the F word, like someone had got caught, like he had just been caught creeping up on me. And then next minute, he said my ancestor's name, Amy, who is the Romany gypsy. So I felt like she automatically came in to protect us or to protect me because Emily Shaw Story is her name, is the lady, the owner of Grey Ladies, but she was coming up behind me, and luckily enough, my partner shouted out kind of F, and I turned around and was kind of saved in a way. But I think she probably would have, if she could, I think she would pull your hair and probably give you a scratch. If that's, I've had scratches. Are they paranormal? I don't know. Is it just happen? I don't know. But yeah, I don't trust her at all. Not one bit. But I still go back there. Mm-hmm. I'm a weirdo.
I think the burial records and stuff like that.
So what was that?
I'm assuming your local archive has the burial records and stuff. Do they have any for the mausoleum?
Yeah, so it used to be the land, it's called Old Waleselden. So it's in Hampshire. And it used to be an old land called the Grey Ladies, and they had a massive big mansion on there. And it's 10th century building. And then the Emmeline Shaw story and Lawrence Shaw story took over it. But there's so many people connected to this land over the time. And pre-mausoleum, I've had a vision. It was pre-mausoleum, but the mausoleum was built for Lawrence, who was buried in Swanwick, just down the road from Basildon, and she wanted him close on the land. So she had the mausoleum built, but the coffin was too big to fit in the location. So they had to put him outside. And we don't know if she is buried there because there's a big square plot. You got one and there's an empty one. So where's the next person? But we have communicated before. When Brian was over, he connected with them, and they do say they are together. It was like a love story for them. They are back together, but it's just a weird location. You've got other graves there, and I don't know who they are, if they're connected to the short stories. But yeah, it's just an odd. But that little bit of the big manor house is all sold up into different apartments and different land. So you've got other big houses on there. You've got stables. You've got a church and a memorial hall, which is the original part of the manor house. So you can go in there during the day. They do like sing songs in the evening for the church. But yeah, it all got sold, and that little plot was their graveyard, and it's still there today. It's weird. Really weird. I'd say when you come down, go to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's a thing, just with Rosie saw graveyards and whatever. It's something I found weird. You've probably found them down. You probably get them down there as well. We've done I forgot what I was going to say. Aye. But we get any Kirkyards, obviously. I had a blank moment there. The mind just went shut down. You know, I think I'm back. I mean, see, Loudon Kirk, for instance, there's a big headstone in there. It's a Celtic cross. You know, it's maybe about 3 feet high. There's designs on it, but there's no names or dates on it. Right. We've found this in other Kirkyards. You know, you've got a random headstone with a design, no name or date. And I've always wondered, you know, why? Is there somebody buried there, or is that just like it's the Celtic cross? Is that just a kind of holy symbol because it's a Kirkyard? Or have you ever came across that?
Yeah, we was at a church near Rudston in the Yorkshire Wolds, and it's got this magnificent monolith outside that, according to legend, was thrown there by the devil. And not far away from there, there's another village with another church. And we went into the churchyard itself is beautiful. There's all these different stones, and you know, they date back centuries. And we went into the actual church itself because in our area they keep the churches open, so you can go in them throughout the day. And we walked in and we had a look around the church, got a couple of photographs. And what really struck me was at the back of the church was a big picture, and it showed where every single grave was and who was buried in every single grave. And for stuff like that, usually you've got to go to the archives, and it's a pain in the backside because we do find stones that don't have names on them, they don't have dates on them, they're just blank, there's no information or anything like that. But you know, so it is weird when you're researching them. But this one was fantastic because it was like everything was there for you. If you was into genealogy, or you know, you was doing someone's family research, this was fantastic because it had all the locations and everything. Nice. I've been to some cemeteries and spent hours and hours looking for graves, and there's no stone. No. We've got one in Hull where it was during the Second World War. A lot of the victims of the Blitz were buried in the cemetery, but the cemetery was so close to the docks and the railway line, it got bombed repeatedly by the Luftwaffe. So they were burying them and they were getting blown up, and they were reburying them, and a lot of them, the stones were getting destroyed, so there's no stones there, anything like that. And one of them was a soldier, and it was recently the 100th anniversary of his murder. He was killed while he was in training. I took the family to the site, and there's nothing there, and they were really shocked. They were like, how do you know it's this particular area? You triangulate by working out the compartment numbers, the grave numbers, so you can see where people are buried. But more often than not, it's just a plot of land. One of the most heartbreaking ones I researched was a cemetery in Westhull. 2 babies were murdered by 2 different people in 2 different, nowhere near each other. But these babies were classed as paupers. And when I was researching them, I wanted to go to visit the grave to put some flowers down. So I went to the archives and researched the first baby. I got the grave number, and I got the compartment number, and I got the plot number. Then I went to research the second baby. I got the grave number, I got the compartment number, and I got the plot number. And when I went to the site, I realised they were both buried in the same grave. But when I went back to the archives, I discovered there were 10 other bodies that I'd not researched that were also buried in that grave. And there was no stone, there was no memorial, nothing. So that was heartbreaking to go and see that. And I wrote an article about it for the local newspaper, and said this plot of land might just look like a nice bit of grass, but it had such trauma and such tragedy. And these guys deserve to be remembered for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's 2 sides of the coin, really.
It's kind of like the cemetery that I go to, Knowlton. It's it was a psychiatric hospital, though, Knowlton Hospital in Fareham. And you've got the cemetery, which is still because the old building of the asylum is now flats and loads of houses, but they've still got the cemetery, and they're trying to look after it. But a lot of it is overgrown. But some of the graves just have numbers, and it was just like, I know they had problems, they had psychiatric problems, but they were still a person. And at the end of the day, they just were a number. It's like, obviously they're in the Winchester. There's a sign that you can go and check the council and find them all out and who they were. But to me, it was just like, it's just a number. And you're thinking, the cemetery isn't actually that big. And you're thinking, how many patients was there? Could they be doubled up? Could they, crammed in? It's not as big as what you'd imagine a hospital cemetery to be like. But yeah, it's horrible that people don't get what they deserve.
I find it quite sad. I came across quite a few just random headstones stuck in the middle of a club, and I mean, take the Celtic Cross, for instance. It's a beautiful headstone, and there's a lot of work went into making it, and you think, and it's just stuck near enough in the middle of the kirkyard. That's it, and you think, well, is there somebody in? Is there somebody buried there? Why is this just stuck? Is it is it a mass grave? Is it whatever? And it is quite sad. And did you say, Rosie, a lot? These were people. They weren't just numbers. They were people. They fathers, mothers, wives, husbands, families, whatever. And they should be remembered. Another thing I found, I've told this story a couple of times, but I've got a friend stays in Putney in London. And I was doing a visit a couple of times. One time I was doing a visit, we were going into Richmond for pizza. Irrelevant, but that's where we were going. But it was a 15-20 minute walk, and it was during the summer, it was nice, so we walked. And you get through a housing estate, and there's some trees. I wouldn't even class it as a forest. It's about a dozen random trees, but there's a path goes through them, and we're walking through, and I've seen these headstones in amongst these trees and tall grass and everything. I stopped and I said, "There's headstones." He says, "It's a graveyard." And there's plain fields surround us, bit of trees behind the houses, and I'm looking at it. I say, "That's a great." He says, "It's a graveyard." But there's maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 headstones there, and that's it. But you can walk by them I know that people do walk by them every day, but you think, I just found it really bizarre.
A random location to us nowadays. Back then, it probably wasn't their random. It was probably maybe their land. Like the Shaw stories, it was their land, so they probably wanted to be buried there. And obviously, because how it would look now is completely different to how it would look back when there probably wasn't the road.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to come down and see if you could explain. It's like with yourself, Scott. You'd have to probably be there to probably vision what it probably would have been like.
What I started to do was try to strip the land away. Take the houses away, take the lampposts and everything away, and then imagine, well, what was here. We were talking to Shadow Paranormal about this as well a few weeks back. What was here prior to all this? Was there some kind of local little church or something here? If so, why would the bodies not move when they were building the housing scheme? It's quite apparent there's graves here because the headstones are there. But you think, well, why did they not move these people if they were going to build houses up?
I know there was a church in Eastleigh, so that's within Southampton, and it was a church, and they built it into flats. They had to get permission to move the bodies, and obviously they had to then be relocated. And some people, were like, well, why would you stay there? You're on somebody's burial ground. It's still their first resting place. And some people live there now, and I've never heard stories, if there's any activity. I don't really know anyone that lives there, but yeah, it's just an odd feeling that knowing that those loved ones were buried, but I don't know how long what time was the last one buried? Because they say that it's 100 years, isn't it? And then they rebury like in that same land. Is that correct? My history's not too good. Yeah, it's
for a comic cat's comment. But I mean, when you think about it, I see this before. If you get back in history, the amount of people who lived in the UK through the centuries, you're talking millions, and a certain proportion of that would have been cremated or whatever, but the majority would have been buried. So they're going to be buried somewhere. So for all we know, our houses could all be built on top of bodies.
Yeah. This is why we do ghost hunts. It's not always what the building is now, it's what it's built on. What was there before? Go down the layers of the dirt. Who was the first one in that bit of land? Obviously, all the history to me of Vikings and Romans and all of this. Who stood there and who stood in that spot? And now your bed's there. That fascinates me, and I like that because I'm weird.
It fascinates me. What just quickly, we work with the Society of William Wallace, obviously, but last year it was the anniversary of William Wallace's capture in Rob Royston in Glasgow. So we live streamed the ceremony last year, and there's houses. There's a big monument there, but the actual spot, there's a house on it. It's with the third house in, third house away from the monument. And I says to, a couple of guys from the society, I says, do you think the people that live in that house actually know that they're sitting on top of the very spot that William Wallace was captured by the English in 1305? I said, probably not. So can you imagine that sitting in your living room that this is where William Wallace was grabbed by the English, and it's just... It blows your mind. Not that I've got much mind to blow, but it does. It kind of blows your mind.
Yeah.
The location I work at is a Pottersfield that's not even marked in 1895. It said that there were so many people in Pottersfield that they actually did cut their limbs off bodies in the ground to put more in.
Jesus.
That's quite gruesome, cat.
That is very gruesome.
I heard pizza and then cheese and then headstones and backtrack to the fact that you said cheese, Scott, not cheese. That's Kate. Kate loves it. Kate was on last night, actually. She lives in Chicago. I usually say San Francisco. I don't know why, but it's Chicago. She lives in Chicago.
Oh, brilliant.
But imagine that, cutting the limbs off of people and
that.
I always thought Pottersfield was, you get in America you get the prisons, and then you get the graveyards with the prisoners are buried. I thought that was kind of a general name for it. Also, I'm way wrong, but I don't know. I don't know if you guys ever think about it. You know, is there any bodies underneath the houses that we're living in? Stuff like that. You know, but
I often, as an historian, I often get asked, and I go, I provide people with maps and stuff like that. There have been instances where it has turned out to be true. To the north of Hull is a notorious housing estate known as Bransholme, and going right back to the Victorian period, there was actually a borough sanatorium on the site. So people with infectious diseases were taken out there, basically died. And on that site, they had their own mortuary, they had their own cremation buildings, and they had a vast burial complex. And it was eventually knocked down. They built a housing estate on it. Today, we're still finding gravestones in people's back gardens and stuff like that. A few years ago, a member from the council was digging in one of the gardens, and it had been after a particular dry spell. There was like a raised plot in the garden, and they thought it was a manhole cover, so they stripped away the grass. They saw the grave, took a photograph, sent me the photograph, and immediately said to me, "We're going to cover it back up and just leave it." And that was it. So there are people whose houses are built on that particular site. It's a rarity because, like you say, we have this ruling where the last burial, it's got to be a century after that before they do anything with the land. And what we have in Hull is most of the cemeteries where that's happened, they're now just empty fields. So you often find people walking around with dogs, they play football on there, not realising that beneath the ground there's still bodies buried. It's just that they've removed the stones, and the stones have, been crushed for hardcore to fill in the roads and potholes and all sorts. So there are examples. One of the strangest cemeteries I went to is in Schullcote, and this is it's a very long cemetery, but a very thin cemetery. The front half of the cemetery, they have these beautiful, crosses and big monoliths to the dead, and these people are obviously very rich. They had quite a lot of money. And then there's like an oval. And once you get to the back of the oval, it changes completely. And this is where the paupers were buried. Now, at that point, if you go at this time of the year, you can't really see anything. But if you go around about January, February time, where, winter's played havoc with the plants and there's not a lot of vegetation there, there's rows and rows of gravestones that are about sort of 7 foot high. And when you go up to them and peel away the moss and the grass from them, there's maybe 10 names, and these were the workhouse graves, and there's thousands, and there's just lines, row and row and row after grave, and on every grave, 10 or 11 names, but the sandstone, and over the years they've worn away, so some of them you can't even read the names, and each grave has an individual identification number. So when you go to the archives, you can just search straight away and see what's buried in there. And it's just heartbreaking. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people buried in that small plot. Wow. So that's really interesting. Then there's another grave at the other side of Hull where there's a massive structure, and it's like a really tall monolith. And it says on it, within a few feet of this grave, there's over 1,000 people that died from the cholera. And to this, walking past it today, excuse me, you wouldn't realise. But it's so much tragedy in that area, and it must have been awful. We're quite lucky. You can go back online and look at some of these old maps and stuff like that, and you often find that a lot of the rich people that had big manor houses built their own graveyards or their own mausoleums and stuff like that. We've got quite a few in East Yorkshire where big families. One of my favourites, Rake's Mausoleum. It's out near Welton, and it's a round mausoleum. It's absolutely magnificent, really, really tall. It's in the middle of a forest, so you wouldn't see it from the road. And over the years, it's been used by people use it now for geocaching and stuff like that. But there's a wonderful, when you go to the monolith, there's like a hole in the wall, and when you look through the hole, there's a wooden box. And if you take the wooden box out and open it up, there's a mirror, and it says Muggles have reflections. And it's just full of trinkets and toys that people have left, business cards, you name it. And people go geocaching around there, and it's just amazing to think that, just beyond that, There's all those members of the Rakes family. And the Rakes family were really upstanding members of the community, very, very rich landowners, property owners, ship owners, and it's just left, basically. And, nature's taken over. We've got quite a few like that. And just this week, actually, the East Yorkshire Archaeology Unit posted some wonderful photos on that. And of course, technology now is catching up with. We can look for ground penetrating radar, geophys, radar, and stuff like that. And they posted photographs of one field, and there was about 20 different variations, and it showed all these ancient burial mounds. And it said these were the burial mounds of people like great warriors and things like that.
Wow.
Today, when you stand on the field, you can't even see them.
No.
But when certain times of the year, when it's dry weather, you can see them. And they've been scanning them for months and months to try and get an outline and all that. And they found hundreds. And it's the main road that runs from Hull to York. You drive literally through the middle of this giant burial ground where all these ancient warriors are buried. And it's just amazing. Like you said, to peel back those layers and go back in time and see what it must have been like back then. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's the same as, also Greyfriars, Kirk in Edinburgh. It's world famous, obviously, but there's 492 headstones in Greyfriars, but the estimation is there's about 500,000 people buried in there.
Wow.
And it's impossible to go anywhere in Greyfriars without standing on bodies, basically, and they're that close to the surface. And we've witnessed this. We're friendly with Jamie Hustorfin. He runs City Dead tours, and their office is based just inside Greyfriars as you walk in. He's been handed bits of bones by members of the public after, maybe bad weather, heavy rain. There's bits of bones being found poking out the ground. That's how close to the surface, these bones are. And he showed us a collection, bits and pieces of and femurs and stuff like that, pulled out the ground. And these were all people, and you're talking about that, maybe that away for the surface. And all it takes is heavy rain and bang.
It's like with Knowlton Church, the mental hospital cemetery, where it's so overgrown and where they've been trying to now keep it, chop some trees down, peel it all back basically as a cemetery. Dan, who I used to work with from Portal Paranormal, we was walking around and there was like a bit of clothing hanging out from some mud. And I was like, well, why don't you just pull it out? And he was like, well, no, because what happens if there's a body on the end of it? And I was like, well, it'll be okay. And so I pulled it, and it was a sock, and it was like a dark blue sock, like corded, like, I think that's the right word. Like, it was like corded, all like loads of stripes. And I was just there, like hanging with this sock. And I'm thinking, okay, that actually could have been somebody's, because the colour of it, the style of this old sock, this could actually be somebody's from their burial. And I'm like, oh my God, put it back down. And I then got home and I then thought, what happens if someone's been murdered and they've been dumped there? And now I've just touched this sock that could have been there. I'm now going to be done for the murder because I've touched it. All this stuff went through my head. So I do say, don't touch stuff. If you find anything gross, don't touch it, because my imagination runs wild. But yeah, I don't know if it was a part of it, because it was so unearthed. A tree had fallen, so the roots had come up. It had unearthed so much. There was this dark blue cord sock. I pulled it. It was nothing on it and nothing in it. I didn't really look, but you could feel there was nothing in it.
It does make you wonder about what we're walking over or driving over every single day that we don't even realise, as theirs. The council estate I was brought up on was built on old farmland, and people don't think about the farm, cottages, barns, etc. That was also around the farms or wasteland housing estates were built on. My point being is that farms weren't just fields. No, that's right. There was. Loudon Kirk, one of the gentlemen we've identified is called James Dempsey. He was a prominent farmer back in the 1800s, and we found where he used to live. It was a manor house, but it's away now. But the original, the cottages. They built cottages there as well for his staff, you know, and it was used as a piggery. There was a stable there. It was a whole setup, and we've been lucky enough to meet up with the guy that lives there, and he gave us a tour last weekend. We were up, and he gave us a tour right around the whole place, and it was some setup, you know, that this guy actually built. It's also the manor house that's long gone, but the cottages and all that are still there, and it's just absolutely fascinating. So I mean, farms, I think I would just associate farm, right, a bunch of fields.
Yeah, well, I used to live at the. I don't know if you've ever heard of Marwell Zoo. It was the zoo down in Southampton, and I lived so far away from it because I worked at the hotel where the zoo is, and I lived in the old barn. So it was the barn that held cows in. And the other half was where they had their tractor, and I lived in one part of the flat. It all got turned into some flats, and then the big, lovely 9-bedroom country house was at the back of it, and it was their B&B, the owners. But they then sold it or they rented it out to then families, and there was loads of stuff in the other half of the barn. So when the landlord took over the house, it was still stuff left in the home from back when the family lived there. And he just put it all in the barn and was like, oh, just go through it. Like, it's just going to be sat there. And I was like, oh my God, this is like treasure, because I'm like a love for antiques. And I found these Victorian slides with the photos. So I had to put a light on it with black paper so I can see the picture. And, sorry, my screen went black. And I was going through all the slides, and then there was a grave, just one grave, one headstone. And it said the man's name, but you can see the house in the background. So I lined up. My landlord came down because he used to live in Scotland. He came down, and I told him, and I held the slide up, and I was like, right, this grave should be here because there's the tree, there's the house. Where's it? Oh, it's a putty cat. Hello. Hello, meow meow. Sorry, guys, I'm an animal lover. You're cute. And yeah, the house was like, the grave should be here, and there was no gravestone, and it was only buried in 1912. So this was, when I'm good 10, 12 years ago. Back, that's not a long time, but because the family upped and left, it was said that the house, it was a cottage, a thatched roof, it had a fire, they had 9 children, 3 of them passed away. They were an American family, and they upped and left. And then my landlord's family took over from the house, brought in stuff in it, and they left all of the stuff. And that's why the American slides, because they were the big ones. I had them looked at. There was big glass slides like this, and he said that all he knew was it was an American family left. That's why half the cottage is now brick, because it got built back up in. It was like 1920 around that time. I can't work out where the gravestone's gone. It's gone. Don't know if it got bashed down or I don't know. But the man's there. That's where he was said to be buried.
I've went some measuring. I was serious talk about the cottages that we went to. I'll go with the 40s. I'll send you the 40s. It was all the original brickwork, and it's going to sound totally stupid, but I was fascinated by it. Just what you're saying, you're in the antiques and that, Rosie. They had one of the original balers there. They used to collect the hay and bale them. And the guy still got it in his barn. And this was one of the balers that the Dempsters used back in the 1800s. And he sent me a couple of pictures. Again, this will sound daft, but he sent me a couple of pictures. When we were up there, he was telling me that what the original clothes poles is still there. With part of it, it's snapped, and he says, I've got the other part of it. I'm going to try and reattach it. So he sent me the pictures of the original clothes pole and the bit that's snapped off it. And it might just be a clothes pole to people, but that's what I was talking to him. I said, we think this is where the Dempsters hung their washing. And I think it's more personal because James Dempster is one of the spirits we've managed to contact down at the Kirks, 5-minute walk there, so you could have stood at the manor house and seen the Kirk. And it's just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
The,
It is. History and paranormal go hand in hand. I'm so fascinated with it, and I'm so like, I haven't got a brain that stores like Mike. You've got so much in your head, like stored in there. You've got little compartments, and you just unlock the door, and all the history just spills out, and it's amazing. My brain don't do that, and what I'm going to do is start learning with a lot of history that I'm reading. I'm going to read it and then write it as well, because I think that's the way I'm going to process it and keep it in, because history and paranormal, it's really hand in hand. And
you can't go one or the other. Mike, what would you say your favourite era? I mean, we're big Tudor fans. You know, I loved the whole Henry VIII, Henry VIII period and all. That was my English accent. Henry VIII and all his wives, you know, all you know, bless their little cotton socks. That's what I'm getting. Anyway, so what's your kind of favourite era in history? Have you got one?
Oh, I love the Victorian period. If I could just go back and be Victorian Jen, that'd suit me. I just want to go back as well, just rewind a second. Loads of people over the years have reported ghosts where they don't see the feet. It's like they're hovering, you know, and it's like the feet are buried in the floor. But I think we've solved that mystery tonight. It's because Rosie's been stealing all the socks, and that's why we're not seeing the ghost's feet anymore.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I swear I put them back. I've got a wall full of socks.
That's one of the greatest mysteries of the paranormal show tonight here on TI.
I like that. I'm taking the honour of that. Like, thank you for that title, Mike. I'm the sock stealer.
Maybe that's where all the odd socks are going. Maybe they're, you know, they're going into the underground, and I mean, every time I put a pair of socks in, I always seem to get one back, and the other one's disappeared.
And along comes Skips Rosie. Oh, look, a sock. I'm looking at that.
Rosie's coming up here next year, I believe. Planning to come up and stay with us, so I will be hiding my socks. I mean, one of Henry VIII went posh like the current day royals. That's a good question.
I like that question, actually. I think I'm trying to picture King Charles's voice on the look of Henry VIII.
I think probably he would have, because, you know, obviously it was after Arthur died, he was educated with his father. You know, Henry obviously was the second son born, so Arthur was the original heir to the throne. So he got all the attention, and Henry was quite clever, but Henry was, you know, sent away, but he was schooled and all the rest of them. And Arthur died, I think he was 15. Henry was suddenly, he was a man, you know. Yeah. His father took him under his wing and started educating him and how to be king and stuff. So I think I would have been quite, maybe not as posh as, you know, Charles and William, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the way they spoke back then was a lot different. You know,
your Dwight Hart kind of thing. Like, I've just gone all Cornish, but I think I look at
what's Cornish going?
I use like the old White Hart, but I got this Hampshire hog accent that goes with the Cornish accent as well, and it's just my old White Hart kind of thing. It's a pub in Hamble, and that's what I always like. Whenever I see it, I go, "The old White Hart." That's how I say it, and that's what I feel like they had that accent back then.
What do you think, Mike? You're the educated historian here. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, they must have got some form of education. I mean, obviously, my era is the Victorian period, so I learned quite a lot about days and Queen Victoria's kids. They were all educated. They were all sent to schools and stuff like that. You know, they were all brought up to speak properly and things and present themselves and in a fashionable and, you know, presentable manner. So why not, you know, the fathers and forefathers? And it makes sense. And, you know, Henry VIII must have had a good education, obviously, because of the sweeping changes that he made in the system. That would have required some form of education. He came to Hull, actually, and he bestowed upon Hull lots of money for us to build defences around the city. And he left a wonderful sword here that's still in the possession of the local council. And, there must have been some form of education. I reckon he was quite a smart man, but at the same time, quite prone to violent outbursts and things like that. And, it's really fascinating to go back and speak with him. And
I loved it. I loved that whole Henry VIII era. I think, his jousting accident did change him. Also, back then, they couldn't diagnose brain injuries and stuff. And I think this is where his kind of temper came from. But I think all his wives as well, and this is just our theory, obviously we've done a lot on the Tudors, but all his wives, except, no disrespect to the lady, Catherine Howard, would have been educated. Catherine Aragon, Anne Boleyn, they came from good families, Anna Cleves as well, royalty, James Seymour as well, obviously, and Catherine Parr. These were intelligent women, especially Anne Boleyn. She was, I'm not saying the rest were thick, but Anne Boleyn was really, really clever. I think that was one of the main reasons why people wanted rid of her, because they didn't realise exactly how clever this lady was, and that the king was
powerful, isn't it?
Especially Wolsey, because obviously Wolsey, he was kind of second in command after the king. But once Anne came on the scene and they were married, then Henry started to listen to Anne more than she did, and this is what Wolsey hated, basically, because she was kind of taking over. So I think they would be well educated and probably spoke quite, I was going to say prim and proper. I don't know if that's the right word, but
no one does an English proper accent like the Brits. Like the accent from the posh accent is just, no one out there can be, oh lardy da. Like I can't even do it. I'm so common as muck. I'm just like, you don't do it any better than the Brits.
I can't talk posh. I've been in jobs before where you've had to try and talk posh, the telephone voice, kind of thing. And that used to last for about 5 seconds, and because it's just the way they speak. No disrespect. There are people out there that can keep it going and go. I'll work beside someone and they can keep it going and going. But I was about 5 seconds and the glass region just kind of spilled back out again, And that's what were you, Mike? Can you do a posh voice?
No. I have an Hull accent, so we drop our H's. We very, if you come to the university, we call it Hull University. It's not Hull. It's Hull.
So you just do like ULL.
Yeah, ULL. We have a ramp where in the old days people would have taken their osses to wash them, and it's known as the os wash. And this is where people take their horses. The locals, we don't pronounce the H's. We have so many weird and wonderful. We've got a wonderful dock system that was named after royalty from when Queen Victoria came to Hull in 1854. But over the years, we've got a dock that's named after the Prince. So this was named after Prince Albert, and it's called the Prince's Dock. But if you speak to anybody locally, for some reason, they will call it the Princess Dock, because of the way our language has changed it. And then we've abbreviated it. And today there's a shopping centre built on top of the dock. And the official pronunciation is Prince's Quay. But locally we call it Princess Quay. And then we've even abbreviated that now, so we just call it Prinny Quay. And we do that a lot. We take big names and abbreviate them, So we have, I don't know if you guys remember the shop Woolies.
Aye, we'll watch that.
So that's abbreviated Woolies, and we do it with a lot of companies, a lot of street names, a lot of shops, a lot of locations. We just abbreviate it, so we have this real short. And I used to take students on tours when they came to Hull, and I'd say to them, "This is our language. and I'd teach them, you know, the different sayings. We have a wonderful thing in Hull where when you see someone, you can ask them if they're okay, if their family are okay, the wife and children are okay, the house is okay, the job is okay, and it's just one word, and it's all right. And everybody, if everyone thinks it's all right, they'll reply all right, and that's it. But if you're a woman, you've got to stop and talk for an hour and just talk about everything. Fellas will just go all right, and that's it. We know that everything's all right. And this is what I teach the students when they come to Hull. You know, if you ever want to know if your friend is okay, and that's it. You know, yeah, short and simple. And it's so funny. You know, and I was explaining to the kids once, and someone passed me, went all right, and I went all right. I knew that everything was fine. You know, it's so funny when you walk around town, because a lot of my tours take me around the city centre, and all the publicans, all the landlords and landladies, the shopkeepers, the doormen, they all know me. So as I'm walking by, they'll, all right, and it's really funny, you know, when you're walking down the street and you're saying it to everyone. There's no need for an elongated conversation. That covers everything.
It just
covers all bits
across the board. I'm going to start using that. And then when people down here are going to start asking me other questions, I'm like, no, I've said all right, and that's it.
Yeah. If you're in a rush, it's fantastic. Yeah, rushing down the street, right?
We use the same word up here. We'll see if you're right. That's it, job done. But as you say, I mean, this is going to sound sexist, and to all the ladies watching Auntie Rosie as well, not intended to be, but women do tend to drag it out.
Waffle, yeah.
It's the same as when women argue. Again, no offence to women, you know, when women argue, you know, in Glasgow, two guys argue, you know, they'll 5 minutes, bang, 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 you know, you're up, right, you want a pint, job done.
You want a pint, that's it, done.
But women in Glasgow, you know, lovely women everywhere, it can go on for a month. You know, that's arguing.
Yeah.
It's the same.
One person, if you're arguing with a man and the man keeps saying something, the woman has to have the last word, so it'll just keep going.
Oh, always.
I was sort of telling my partner, just shh, and it's done. Like, I ain't going to carry on after.
It's short. Yesterday, I was talking to this old guy. When I go in the show, I talk to everybody basically. I would talk to a tree if I could, you know, didn't get arrested for it again. But however, I was talking to this old gentleman, and I was saying, you know, you never ever see a woman following a man round Tesco. It's always the other way around.
Yeah.
You ever notice that? It's always a man following the woman.
Yeah.
Whatever shop it is, doesn't matter. But you never ever see a guy, right, we're going to do this one, right, we need this, we need that. It's always a case of you just toddle one behind, don't you? Yeah. You just bang, 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 everything goes in, you know. And they do the aisle to aisle. You know what I'm talking about, Mike. You know. When I go shop and I like to get in, bang, back out. But women got them done every single aisle.
There's a system, and if the system's broken, I've got to start again. I've got to you'll go in to the paracetamol, because paracetamol's my big thing. Not that I'm not a drug addict or anything. It's just the paracetamol, which is the same line as the shampoo and the bread. Yeah, it's got to be a system. And then there's a system packing, because the system packing is when you're unpacking at home. It's the system of the freezer bag, the fridge bag, the cupboard bag. My partner's good at that. He's good at packing.
My mum used to do that. You know, everything for the freezer goes in one bag. Everything for the cupboard goes, you know, the tins go in one bag. You know, you can carry a bag, is it 30 tins in it or something? You can't even lift it off the counter, you know. And you say, Mum, just stick it in a bag. It's all going in the same house. Just bung it on the one place.
Like them, like is it Aldi's and Lidl's? They go really, really fast. So you literally just got to have a trolley and just scoop it back in.
And then you know, you've got a full trolley, and the woman say, "Would you like a bag?" No offence to everybody what's in shops, they say, "Would you like a bag?" So I'll stick it on my pockets and do my jumper on the right of the motor. You know, would you like? You know, how am I going to get this shopping trolley full of stuff? Take the trolley and tip it into the car or something, you know? Like, would you like a bag? And then they give you one bag, and you have a full shopping trolley.
Yeah, they put you in a bag through, and you're like, I've got 5 watermelons. How am I going to get that in a bag?
And you've all got toilet roll bags of potatoes that take up all the room. No. You know, it's like a while, and then Tesco are bad for this. They change everything about. Just after weeks of learning the layout of the place, they change it overnight there.
Yeah.
You know, and you go in, and it's like panic stations.
Yeah.
You know, you can't find them.
My partner works in Tesco's, and he's in the Burston store, so it's the biggest store in like the area. You do have your other big ones, but they're like the main one. And I even moan at him. He's like, "Don't moan at me. It's not my idea to change it." I'm like, "Yeah, you have a big dog. Stop changing the aisles," because I'm like, I've just got used to how it was then. Then you go in, and it's all freaking changed. Now my shopping's fucked up. Like, I forgot me mushrooms the other day. That was for my mixed grill. Didn't get them, so I've got garlic mushrooms from the freezer because I know where they were. Yeah, when they change stuff, it's annoying.
It's just they've opened a big B&M up here. You know, that's a one, but it's like 2 massive stores that used to be, but they kind of put them together. This big, huge, massive B&M. It takes about a week to walk from one end, to the other. And all the stuff your one's always doing the far end. Do you know what I mean? It's stop me. Don't even start me. You know, and then parking and all. What's that about? You know, you get these nupties with, these people are, no offence to Corsa drivers, but they take up 2 spaces to park a Corsa. Sideways. You think, seriously.
If they had a smart car, they could do it. It's always the big Jeep. My mate that I was saying in London, he's got a smart car. And the first time I've been done, I drove down, and I parked the car, and he works for the BBC and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So he's in the city centre a lot. So he says to me once, he says, "You want to come in to work with me?" So I says, "Aye, fine." And we went outside, and I didn't know it was his car, and he walked out, and I was like, "We're going in this." I had a Ford Focus at the time or something, and I was like, he says, "Aye." I said, "Will we fit in there? I've got my phone in that. We're going to all fit in." Your knees are up here.
I squeezed into this smart car like that, and I'm getting my everything. I'm fine, let's go. I'll be in the middle of London. But the moral of the story is, London's a nightmare. Parking, driving, everything. We got into the city centre, and there was a tiny wee space. And he just drove the car right in, bang, and he got out. Aye, he says, "Who's the beep now?" I was like, "All right, you win." But when he says, "This is my car," and I was like that. Why do you not take it inside? When you go home.
Wind up one.
Anyway, it was right off the paranormal that there, didn't we?
Onto cars.
Cars and John. I've just noticed it. I will wind it up there, folks. We just think. But we're going to have them back because we always have a good laugh. Yes. The next time, I don't know, we'll talk ships or planes or something. I don't know. We'll think of something.
Ships, planes. Like I'm thinking, I've got Queen Elizabeth I in my head, so I'm like, I'm gonna have to go and watch a program on her in a minute because, like, talking about Henry VIII, I'm like, right, Queen Elizabeth I. She visited Kenilworth. That's where I love to go. So because she walked the wall. So yeah, that's my bit after this.
She was one of the longest serving monarchs as well. Henry's first daughter. She was obviously the daughter Anne Boleyn. And Henry didn't recognise her as his legitimate daughter, but that's another story. But so, where can people find you before we break up? Where can people find the Ghoul Gang?
So the Ghoul Gang, we are on Facebook. So we don't have a website. We are keeping it simple. We are on Facebook. We are called the Ghoul Gang. You will have to just literally add, and then we have to approve it. That's all. We are doing a YouTube channel, so don't go and look at it yet because it's literally one little video on there, one lonely video. We are in the work of working all of our videos and pictures together. I've got 3 videos going to be launching in the next week or so. I say 3 days. I'm not going to say that. The next week. So yeah, find us on the Facebook page. And we've got some stuff for you. We've got some events coming up as well. So, yeah.
And what about Mike? Find you in Hull.
In Hull, yeah. Check us out. Amazing tours. We've got our Facebook page. We run regular tours around the city and lots of different lectures and stuff like that. Or they can find myself on Facebook or Twitter at Mike Covell.
I definitely want to book on one of your tours because you're always like, when I see your Facebook, you're like, right, just like getting ready to go on a tour. Right now, I've just finished my tour. I'm like, I want to go. So I think I have Tuesdays off and I have weekends.
I've never done a ghost tour. I've done, I done one in Edinburgh with, I can't mind who it was with now, but it was the Blair Street Vaults, but they didn't tell you there was about an hour's walking about, the Royal Mile before it. But we didn't enjoy it because it was too, I don't know, not a phase, Mike, I don't know your too, but it was too scripted.
Oh, yeah. No, I have a laugh.
Yeah, Mike.
I cater to the people on the tour. So I try and find out what people like and what people don't like. And I try and make it bespoke so that everybody has a different experience. And I believe that's the way forward because it's so much fun when you get people on the tour that, they like maybe this type of thing and that type of thing. So before we start, I like to talk to people and get a feel for the kind of stuff they like and do it like that. And I think it works really, really well. And at the minute, I offer over 40 different tours in Hull. So it's not just ghost stuff, it's true crime stuff with local history. And again, I can make it bespoke for people. So when private groups book, for example, I'll say to them, what does your group like? What do you guys like? And then that way, when we're taking them around on the night, we can talk about different things and take them to different locations. And it's great. And I, like you say, the basic facts are up there, but I like to have a laugh, especially if we've got kids on the tour. I love working with kids. If people bring the kids along to the ghost walks, I give them a hefty text. And the kids are like little investigators because they've seen it on YouTube. They want to get involved. They want to, and I love it. It's so much fun working with kids, and we have a laugh. And just try not to take it too seriously. Because a lot of the time, we're talking about, death and murder and the afterlife. So we just have a joke and make it light-hearted and give people a good night, and so they go and remember it and hopefully book on for more.
Yeah, you're kind of an entertainer. That's how you need to kind of be. How I felt when, so obviously how we do our ghost hunts, even when we still have guests, our friends, I do like a laugh and joke with them. We do like little ghost stories if nothing's happening. So you're kind of catering for their needs kind of thing, or their mind, like what they want kind of thing. And yeah, you can become like this entertainer in a way, not like Butlins or anything like that, but like crime, paranormal, the best kind of entertainer I love. But yeah, I'm definitely going to book on. And if you're all right, Mike, I'm going to pop up on our page your website, so if anyone is visiting the area or within the area now to book on with Mike and do some of the ghost walks, I'd love that. I need to come up all and
go and see Mike.
I'm coming up to Scotland. I'll be in Scotland in August.
Nice.
Whereabouts?
Loch Ness. So
I was reading somebody, I don't name any names, but there's a paranormal investigator who's going to debunk the Loch Ness monster. It's just, it's I don't know very well. See, when I read it, Sarah showed me it, I thought, it's just, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. You don't know where to take offence to it, because the guy's basically saying, I'm going to prove. I mean, Nessie is a Scottish legend, I mean, I don't believe there's some big prehistoric dinosaur. I believe there is something in the Loch. They have found, they have got evidence, where it's sonar readings, whatever it is, that there is something there. But I don't think it's a big dinosaur or anything like that, and a lot of people forget that Loch Ness is a sea loch. It's open to the sea, so as it's something that keeps coming, but they have you know, they say there is something there, but this investigator, shall we say, is going to debunk the Loch Ness Monster. I say, just leave Nessie alone. She's part of the heritage, you know. Just let her be. You know, it's people, thousands and thousands of people go visit Loch Ness and the whole area every year for the simple thing of Nessie. So yes, crack was it? I'm going to prove she's no real. You know, get back to Hull. Go down to Hull. Well, right. See when you're up. That's next month, isn't it? Aye, next month.
Yeah.
Give us a shout. We're about 3 hours drive away from Loch Ness, so you know if you're free, give us a shout and we can certainly pop up.
Yeah, we're staying off for a few days. I think that's the plan.
You know where you're staying, so you can stock your hotel.
We're camping. We're going for the full experience. We're going to be camping out there, and it's because of, I don't know if you can see that, this guy here in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So when my dad was alive, he wanted to go to Loch Ness. That was his ultimate goal, and he wanted the last family holiday to be at Loch Ness. And he passed away in 2010, and he never got the opportunity. So then I've been saying, I'm going to go. I'm going to take Dad's picture and I'm going to sit it on the banks of the loch. You know, and every year, because I work so much, I just don't get a chance. And it was this year one of my friends said to me, he said, I'm taking you. But this year we're going to go and we're going to do it, you know, for your dad. So that's why I'm making a pilgrimage up there and, you know, hopefully make some nice memories while I'm up there as well.
It's lovely.
I've been up Loch Ness. 2 seconds. I'll let this cat out.
I've never been. I'm planning to go to Scotland to go and visit Scott in February next year. So I think my partner's awake, so he don't know yet. But I'm doing it. It's around my birthday, so. No.
Get in the car. We're going to McDonald's. Just ignore the tent and everything in the boot. There might be a queue.
Yeah.
You know,
fine.
You know, just forget the motorway in that Scottish side. Forget that. We're going. I fancy a change of McDonald's.
Yep.
I think you better tell him, Rosie. You know, nearer the. Yeah. No, mate, when you're up here, if you're free, give us a shout, and we can come up and show you some of the hills. This is the hills, and that's the water. You know, in August time, hopefully. But, you know, the weather's going to be good for you. Fingers crossed, you know. But we'll wind up here, folks. A big thanks to the Ghoul Gangs, Rosie, and to Mike for coming in again and just having a chit-chat, basically. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Rosie, Mike, hope you enjoyed yourselves.
Loved it. Thank you very much for having me.
And I do apologise for that at this time. You know, we bit of fun. I'm not looking at back, but Mike, I'll send you that link on Granny, and you can give her a watch. But that's it tonight, folks. We're back on Wednesday night with Heather P. Bain, the author and former crime reporter. She's coming back in for another wee chat. So we shall leave you there, folks, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll see you later on. So take care of it. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Bye.